Car is running much better than it has. The idle is still kind of all over the place. I've had problems with Honda idles since I started. I've never been able to get these things to idle B series all the way up to K series. I mean, not in a way that I think would be good. I don't know if it has anything to do with modifying the vehicle and it just throws off the idle controller, but couldn't tell you. So the next step is to continue to build the map, start leaning into it more and more, get the gate open, find out where base PSI is for the gate, and just make it more and more drivable. Now that the car is, relatively drivable, I'm going to take the interior somewhat apart and just figure out where all the wiring goes, because there's a lot of wiring that just kind of leads to nowhere. And I got it running. I basically completed the mission, which was to get it drivable and get it to the point where it can be transported if I needed to. So the car moves well, so I'm gonna start, just dialing it in, and that involves fixing all the wiring in the ECU. So before I really start to push on the car, I'm gonna fix that, get the interior perfect, make sure the wideband's always working, and then go from there. So yeah, it's interior next, and idle, and more power. So I guess this is not a Torx bit, or it wasn't a Torx bit. Now it's a flathead. I got it, but I gotta take it apart and see how gross it is. It definitely looks, well, not great, but let's see how much movement we get. So I did clean it, did my best. I hit it with some brake clean, got all the schmutz out, and then I hit it with some air, just try to get it all, work it all out, then WD-40 to try to just get the last little bit of grime, and then some more brake clean. And then once that was good, I went in and used some lubricant just around the joints and anywhere it meets. And my goal was to try to get as little resistance as possible on the rod, and so far it seems pretty good, but we won't know until we try to get it to idle. So let's see what happens. So after cleaning the idle motor, the car starts normally, idles. I don't have the coolant gauge hooked up on the dash yet, but yeah, normal start now, and it opens up on D-cell, so I'm not stalling anymore. So that worked. Sorry. So the plan is to take the wiring and clean it all up. The wideband is not working, which means I disconnected it, and I'm not really sure which wires it is, but there's wires going to the floor mat. It's everywhere. It's kind of unruly. So I'm gonna clean everything up and make sure everything works, and then I'll get back to tuning. All right, so this is the rat's nest I'm dealing with. There's wires everywhere, all over the place. And then there's things like this. This is some grade A stuff right here. It's all good, I guess. I'll start somewhere. It's just where does any of this even go? There's just so much up there. All right, let's clean it all up. All right, so wiring is just about clean. There are no exposed wires. There's nothing with tape that isn't crimped together. If you come to the other side, I've got all this cleaned out, and I've got the dash harness built for the cluster for the 2 gauges. So I've got my boost gauge and my wideband going in. The last part of this was to determine how I was going to do power and ground. It looks like they had a couple spots that they were tapping into for some reason, and a few more that I just noticed hanging around. But I'm gonna go with, it looks like they had an open ground right here, and he had at some point installed a fuse jumper. These are great. This is probably the best way to do this. So I'm gonna use that for power, that for power, that for ground. And then I've got to run a second harness under to get the serial data. I'm gonna make a jumper harness off of the ECU that's gonna come out of the case, and then into under the car, and that'll get sends the serial signal to the gauge so that I can communicate with my wideband over serial. I'm gonna add a few wires in case I want to add a other inputs later, but for now it's just gonna be the serial connection point, and then I'll just deadhead the other pins. So yeah, I'm gonna get this installed, and I think the order of operations here is a little tricky because I have to get the ECU put in the car. And the reason I have to do this is because I want to make sure I bring out the flying lead out of the ECU case in the right spot. So you got to be a little careful how you do this, but once it's done, it should look really good. Okay. So I'm going to connect them. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to do 2 into 1 or 2 separate. It really doesn't matter, but I don't know, maybe it'll come to me as I go. But I'm going to start by just breaking down the wires, figuring out what's what. It should be power ground signal power ground signal, and then wideband out, I believe, for this one. And then this one is likely power ground, and then maybe illumination circuit. I'm not really sure why you need 2 other wires for the dumb gauge, but let's do some digging and figure it out. All right, I just tried a quick test with my voltage supplier, voltage brick, I'm not sure. So it looks like the orange is memory save, yellow is illumination, red power, black ground. So basically, if I leave the hot out of the circuit, I can reduce the wire, and then the only drawback is that it starts at blue every time. But like the rest of the colors are nice, but honestly, I'd rather just keep it at blue anyway and call it a day. Like I don't really need, wait, why is that green? Wait, what? I guess there's a touch all of them setting. Oh, and then this one is like a color shift. That's fun. Yeah, no, I'm good. So if I shut it off, okay, and then power back up, it's gonna default to blue every time, and I'm cool with that. I don't need anything else because I don't plan on running this super long anyway. So that'll cut down on that circuit. Get to the wideband and then put together. All right, final product. Everything is crimped, terminated, and then heat shrink. I've got the Deutsch pins in, and I have a little test connector to make sure everything works. So I'm going to power this up, and I haven't checked this yet, so if it doesn't work, I'm going to look dumb. Ciao. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Yeah, cool. So now I just got to load it up into the car and find a usable power source. So this is where the ECU is going to live. It's where it lives standard. I've got 3 bolt holes, one there, and one there. Now in the past, I would just I'd measure and figure out the brackets and just go from there. But now we're going to try something different.
And now for something completely different.
So now we have the K24-T otter scan. And what the otter scan does is it lets me look at the basically lets me look at the geometry, so when I go to make my brackets, I can just place it on the scan, and then when I go to design it and print it, it should be perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead, I gotta redo this one because I missed the little hole right here, but I'm gonna work at it till I get it, and then see if I can get the scan into my machine and get designing. So this is the final product. As you can see, it struggled a little bit with some like the wiring loom, but what it didn't struggle with was the holes. I've got a perfectly clear vision of the holes, and if this came out well enough, I should have the depth, so I'll be able to make my bracket hopefully with pretty decent ease. So let's get this into SolidWorks and see what it does. So this is the basic shape I got for the bracket. I kind of just worked it until I got the geometry as parallel to the face as possible, and then brought the bracket down to the STL as close as I could. So we'll see if this works. If this does work, we're in business. If not, no worries, we'll give it another shot. 3D printing car parts for probably a decade now. This is so far my favorite thing that I've ever done, because this is the first time I was able to take a scan and within a few minutes just replicate a part. Well, not replicate, design a part. So this fits perfectly right where it should, right over the right over the loom, like all the holes. Let's see if you can see. All the holes line up, like everything's perfect. I mean, my design my design speeds are gonna skyrocket. Like I'm just gonna be able to rip through so much stuff. So yeah.